Hello and welcome to another episode of Ticker Symbol Live, where we take a look at ARK Invest's future and their investments one day at a time. Their vision of the future and how they're investing in it one day at a time. I skipped a beat there because I'm really excited for today's episode. Many of you may not know this, but I am a huge nerd, and one of the things I love nerding out about is video games and the future of video games. We're fortunate enough to have ARK Invest have a big idea centered around virtual worlds, and their focus on that big idea has been video games, especially online gaming, right? So today we're going to be featuring a stock called Skillz because it's been one of ARK Invest's biggest buys and sells for the week, and I'll show you that in the data for a minute. And Skillz actually is challenging that big idea. The big idea basically says, and I'll show you that in a minute, that the video game space is moving towards in-game itemization and microtransactions, and Skillz says, no, there is a real future in real money in video games, putting real dollars on the line for competitive video gaming. Of course, those two things can coexist, but what ARK is doing by investing in Skillz is saying, hey, it's not just about microtransactions, it's also about real competitive gaming. And I'm really, really excited about that topic. So let's jump right into it. This is the ARK Reactor. Hopefully you're used to seeing it by now. It's featured every day during the live stream, and I have it sorted in terms of shares purchased. This is a weekly view, so I want to be very clear about what you're seeing here. We're looking back from yesterday to 1 week before yesterday. So March 24th, if you're watching this in real time, today is Thursday, March 25th. So this is March 24th's data back to one Thursday ago from there, right? So everything is a little more green because we're adding up a week's worth of data. We've talked about 3D systems last week. This was a major amount of purchases, and you can see that ARK Invest has more than doubled their position in DDD in the last week. And then the stock right under it is Skillz, ticker symbol SKLZ. They've increased their shares by 40% over the last trading week, and they have a $124 million position in Skillz. So not a small position. It's increased in rank, in ARK rank, 8 positions, and it is their 84th largest holding. And the interesting thing about that is it's only in one fund. It is only in ARK W. ARK Invest fund themed around the next generation of internet applications and AI-enabled applications. So this is a pure play stock with $125 million in it, an eighth of $1 billion. So that's why I want to talk about it today. Lots and lots of interesting stocks we can talk about when you're aggregating over a weekly view, which I'd like to start doing more and more often. I'd like to start switching between talking about their daily picks, but also looking 1 week back and looking at things that may not look like big buys day by day, but over a week really add up. So there's some other types of data analysis we can do to start pulling other interesting signals out of noise. So let me just show you this real quick. I'm highlighting Skillz and I'm finding it in the bar chart, and it is a green only bar. It's their 84th biggest position, and they have $125 million in it, and they have a little over 5 million shares of Skillz today. So, as always, what the heck is this thing? So let me stop sharing that screen, and let me start sharing their investor presentation. So there's a couple things I want to point out before we get to the investor presentation, which we will focus on a lot. Skillz had a massive rally earlier this year. It went public via a reverse merger with a SPAC. And it went up 250%, and now it is on a big decline. And the reasons for this decline are pretty interesting. It turns out there was a human error. They accidentally posted that they were going to be exercising their warrants from their reverse merger early. So people were selling and dropping the warrants and whatever. And so a lot of this downward motion is because of human error, not also part of that rotation out of growth stocks into value stocks, right? So what you're seeing here is a 50% down off recent highs, right? Which means, it's trading at 1/2, so it will double if it touches a new all-time high, right? From this position. And it's not due to company fundamentals. And I'll show you that in the investor presentation. The other thing I want to point out, of course, is why we're talking about it is because it ties back to ARK Invest. Specifically, I always try to tie these stocks back to ARK Invest's larger vision for the future and their investment thesis in it, right? So what you're looking at here is a slide from their 2021 Big Ideas report. This document is massive. I love it. It's kind of my guiding star every year as I think about my own vision for the future and my investment thesis in it, right? I should probably throw one of these guys up. I'm not a financial advisor. Nothing here is financial advice, but I strongly believe in ARK Invest's research, their actual technical research, as a way to guide my own investment research. Not financial advice. I'm just a dude on the internet, so take everything I say with a grain of salt. So that being said, what you're looking at is a Big Ideas report specifically about video game monetization models. And that's where Skillz fits in, right? The breakdown of global gaming revenue has changed drastically in the last decade, from being only 20% in-game purchases and 80% revenue from premium games. So, for example, collector's editions of games that come with extra stuff, or, just high box prices, art books, like all the types of things that you would get in collector's editions, to about being 50-50 5 years ago. And now the gross majority of revenue from games comes from in-game purchases. It comes from DLCs, it comes from map packs, it comes from bonus items, it comes from trading real money for in-game currency, it comes from any type of advantage, a time boost, an experience boost, anything that makes your gaming process more efficient, right? Those are the things that people are buying. They're trading money for time. They don't want to spend time grinding in game. They want to spend time playing the end game, and so they're willing to pay to get there, right? Games all over the place in every genre do this, from shooters to fighters to RPGs to massively multiplayer games to single player games, are trying to find new sources of revenue in game above and beyond the box price. And that even includes games that are free to play with microtransactions everywhere from PCs to consoles to your cell phones and tablets, right? So this model is ubiquitous, right? There's a big shift in gaming, no matter what type of gaming you're talking about, between moving from revenue from the premium game and the box price to in-game purchases. Now let's talk about Skillz. Skillz believes that the future of gaming is not just in microtransactions, it's in competitive play. So what Skillz does is they allow developers to focus on their game while they provide them a platform by which they can make that game a competitive experience and connect gamers through competition, right? They have a 1.6 billion gross marketplace volume today. That's the amount of pay-ins people are paying into a pot to play competitively in a chance to win that pot. And they host 2 billion tournaments per year, right? And it turns out, as we're about to see, their engagement when they do this is through the roof. People really enjoy putting pennies on the line, literal pennies, like a 50-cent buy-in an effort to make a buck, right? And so when you compare Skillz' minutes per user per day, people are using the combination of the games enabled by Skillz more than they use almost anything else. It's pretty crazy. TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, Candy Crush, Snapchat, and the mobile gaming average. And the games on Skillz are highly engaging because people like that competitive nature. So let me stop here and ask the first question of the day, right? Sorry, it's this question. Do you play online games? Would you make in-game purchases? And if so, would you pay to play a competitive version of the games you already love? For example, a competitive tournament of Angry Birds, which doesn't have a tournament mode right now as far as I know, but what Skillz can do is plug into that game, for example, and offer you a way to play Angry Birds versus your friend for money. Is that something that interests you? Would you ever consider doing that? I personally would. I have a lot of competitive friends. I'm a competitive guy by nature. I was playing Mario Kart last night, and kind of lit my competitive fire. I would pay in to play Mario Kart for money. I would pay in a couple bucks in an effort to win, double my buy-in, even though 4 people paid into that pot, right? Where Skillz takes the other X% of that. And we'll dive into how their revenue model works in a minute here. But let me know in the comments or tweet me. Are you interested in competitive gaming where you would pay to play? Looking in the comments here, a lot of nopes. That's cool. Yeah, like, so, the overlap between gamers and investors might be pretty small. And that's totally fair. But you should be aware that there's a real market there. And where there's a real market and a publicly traded company, chances are there's an outsized winner in the space. But I totally respect these no's. A lot of people not interested. Great. Then I won't focus on the gaming aspect. Let's focus on the business aspect. That's great. That's why I love the interactive format, right? So Skillz, fulfilling a real need, right? High user engagement. Let's think of them as an e-commerce store almost, where the e-commerce experience is very, very repeatable because it ends very quickly and you have to buy in again and again and again. So let's treat like a game play, one unit, as a product that you can purchase over and over again. Right? And so the ecosystem they're building is between gamers and developers, right? Developers can create new types of content for more engagement, and gamers can engage with that content in new ways for increased revenue streams, right? Best in class results. We can talk all day about, the accolades that Skillz has done by doing this. 80%, 88% year over year growth rate. Sorry, this is a presentation from last year now, right? So their most recent investor deck. So 19 to 20 is the stats we're quoting here. Realize it's early 2021 and this deck will update in a few months. So 88% year over year growth for the last cumulative year they've calculated this. 4.7x in 3-year customer lifetime value divided by user acquisition cost. So let me explain this number here. This is the heart of the business. So 4.7 times, so a 5 times multiple increase on their 3-year customer lifetime value, which is the amount a person spends with their business over 3 years, divided by the cost of acquiring that user. That's things like advertising. It's things like all the types of different ads and ways they can acquire them, right? And including all of the back-end infrastructure that has to support that user once they have an account, right? So think about credit card processing costs and all that divided by the number of users. All that goes into this user acquisition cost number, the cost of maintaining that user. So what this says is the amount of profit that they're making above and beyond that customer acquisition cost has increased by almost 500% year over year. And they're using a 3-year lifetime value there because I guess that's how far back they have their data, right? So the average user is profitable within 4 months. And of course, what that means is, if you're engaging with the platform for a lot longer than 4 months, you're going to be a lifetime user of this competitive platform. They make their money back on you over and over and over and over again, right? As you buy into new games, as you buy into more of the game that you love, etc. I see good comments like this, so let me just pause and address this question because I really enjoy these types of questions. I don't understand ARK's investment in things like this. To me, it doesn't seem to be capable of super high growth, but they are smart as ARK, so what do I know? First of all, you know a lot. I respect your opinion. You're here trying to do research, and you have a valid question. Why is ARK investing in this? ARK is investing in this because they understand that the future of gaming is interactive, it's engaging, and in some ways it's competitive. So what they did is they found somebody who has an outsized win in their space in the competitive gaming space. So 2 reasons ARK Invest, I believe, invests in this stock. 1, the total addressable market is growing. Online gaming is going to be bigger tomorrow than it is today. And 2, it's a limited space. There's probably 3, 4, 5, 6 companies like Skillz, but not 30 or 60. So what they did was they said, hey, this is a good idea. The market is going to grow. Let's find the company with the best technology on the back end because we believe they will be the outsized winner 3 years from now in that space, a space which we believe will grow. Gaming, right? A big idea. So that's why ARK holds this stock, in my opinion. And why Skillz specifically, that's why we're looking at the investor presentation deck, right? So 2 things there. Market in general, Skillz specifically. Answered the first because it's going to grow. As we saw in the Big Ideas report, I can show you a different chart. It's going to grow by something like 15% compound annual growth rate, which means a doubling in roughly every 5 years. And then why Skillz specifically? Let's address that now. Excellent question. Keep those questions coming. Those are important investor questions. Skillz makes gaming better for everyone. And this is something that, as a gamer, I'm very in tune with. Gaming today is kind of crappy, right? Like, there's the content, and then there's all the stuff that developers do to try to extract money from you through their content. Let me show you what I mean. So they're building a competitive engine. They have a live operations system to take care of disputes in real time, and they provide a developer console, right? And so then there's a lot of back-end data that they can capture over multiple games, over multiple users, and all that stuff to do artificial intelligence-driven monetization upstream. So this is the type of things they offer, right? Tournaments and leagues, player rating and matching, which is a hard problem, anti-cheat and anti-fraud, a necessary problem to provide a non-frustrating experience, social features, so, whether it's witty banter between competitors or engaging ways to engage between a team and their community, right? So esports teams have fans, and also among competitors on the same team. So 3 different types of social features, which is really important. Loyalty rewards, so that's great, keeping people coming back through rewards, keeping people engaging with their biggest esports teams through loyalty rewards. Of course, payments, content discovery, that's how they're upselling you on different games that you might also enjoy based on, the games you're playing and the games that people like you are playing. So think the Netflix of competitive games. And of course, 24/7 support, because people never sleep on the internet, right? Mobile gaming market is the future of entertainment. I'm starting to play more and more games on my cell phone. So the second question I'll ask you is, if you play video games of any kind, and maybe not many people here today do, that's okay. What do you play them on? Are you playing them on a desktop PC? Are you playing them on a console? Or are you playing them on your cellular phone or something else, right? Like, let me know in the comments, tweet me, tell me what types of video games you play in your downtime if you're playing video games. Excellent. So gaming is growing like crazy, right? Compound annual growth rate of movies. I think this number is lower by now just because of the pandemic. Music booming, books, including ebooks, now booming. And then gaming and mobile gaming is huge, right? So the gaming space has grown 12%, but the mobile gaming space specifically has grown 20%. We're waiting in lines, we're taking Ubers, we're in the airports, we're in malls, whatever. We have some downtime, we flick open our phone, and we play a round of Candy Crush. And then, of course, television has been growing slow. It's a massive industry. But OTT, so streaming devices, right? Think about Fire Sticks, think about Roku, and so on, is growing. And that's the new version of TV. We've talked about Roku in a separate episode. Anyone can embrace their inner champion. So talking about the demographics driving the competitive space, pretty well distributed. Two things that are very interesting, I'll say. Income very fairly distributed, right? Median income of their demographic reflects the median income kind of in the USA, which is great. Male and female, pretty good ratio here. Lots of females playing this game, which is unexpected because the gaming market is traditionally male dominated. So this is great to see. It's an even split. They can cater to everyone, which means they can advertise to everyone and just have a larger total addressable market. And of course, by age, great age distribution, right? So 18 to 25 all the way up to 66 plus. All of these are meaningful demographics. Notice that even 66 and older is 15% of their demographic. So they have a lot of great opportunities to capture people regardless of what that person looks like or how much money they make or what their age is or whatever. They're all meaningful to a company like Skillz, which is great. That's what you want to see. So their business model is pretty simple. It's very quick. 2 people pay 60 cents to play a game against each other. That's a gross merchandise value of $1.20. So there's a 16-cent revenue after all of the stuff gets taken away for developers, prizes, and incentives. That's Skillz' gross margin, right? That's a gross profit of 15 cents on $1.20, less their operating expenses. They're making 4 cents on every $1.20, which I believe works out to be like 3 or 4%, right? That's great. You know what I mean? That's after everyone else gets paid. That's just their take home, and realize that these transactions are happening many, 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 many times a second on Skillz. So they've done a lot of great charity work. We can blow past this, but what I want to say is, they have a younger demographic, so they can help businesses that traditionally have an older demographic engage audiences they could never engage, and that's what you're seeing here. Susan G. Komen for The Cure has a traditionally, median age of around 70, where Skillz has a median age of around 30. So they can link up and say, hey, we can get you exposed to this whole new demographic and provide you a lot more charity dollars. More game developers means more games. 30,000 game developers a little over a decade ago to 10 million developers in the gaming space today means more opportunity for Skillz to leverage their platform in the gaming space. So again, that's the trick here. ARK Invest has identified a market that's very clearly growing, and they're trying to find the outsized winner in that market that will grow at a high compound annual growth rate, right? So when you're in a market that has a high compound annual growth rate and you're the leader in that market, so you also have one, that's how you get those exponential curves, right? Excellent. Old business models don't work anymore. This is the frustration part. Ads interrupt gameplay. Ads, we all don't like ads, and I get it. I'm a YouTuber and you're seeing ads for videos that I put up, and that's how the channel makes revenue, and that funds more videos. It's a vicious cycle for you, a virtuous cycle for me. But I agree with you, right? I'm still a person too, and I can appreciate that ads interrupt gameplay, right? So ads interrupt gameplay. In-game purchases lock users out of pay-to-win content. They're frustrating. It's frustrating to go up against somebody who bought something to beat you, right? And then the other problem is because there's so many more game developers and games out there, it's hard to get discovered, right? So you have to spend a lot more advertising dollars to get in front of the right type of gamer. So Skillz is changing the script, right? And so this is the slide I really wanted to get to. What gamers value is community and fun, and what old models delivers pay to win and interruption. Pay to win being those microtransactions that boost your power, whatever that means in the game, and then ads that interrupt your actual gaming experience. Developers want to be discovered, and they like money, but they want their players to have a non-frustrating, fun, engaging experience. They want money for the efforts that they spent building those games. But what gets delivered through the old model is broken economics, pay to win, and gimmicks, special events and tricks and whatever to extract dollars from gamers, which is not what you want, right? That's not how developers want to be making money. That's how they are forced to because of the current economics. So what Skillz is providing is a flip of that script in a meaningful way for both gamers and developers, right? What they value is community and fun, and what Skillz delivers is meaningful connection, usually through competition or support of a esports team, and fair competition through things like anti-cheat and fair ranking and all that stuff. And what they give to the developers is exposure through their network, right? Here are games like the games you're playing now that are also competitive and interesting, and financial success by making the monetization about the competition instead of about in-game gimmicks and monetization through microtransactions and items. So very powerful flipping of the script where it's a triple win. Skillz obviously wins. Gamers win because they're getting less ads and, less spam for microtransactions, and developers win because they're getting discovered on this whole new platform, and now they can focus on creating valuable content that people are engaging with through competition instead of disrupting that content through ads, right? Because when you're playing a game you like and ads disrupt that game, that gives you a bad taste in your mouth about the game, not just the ad. That's the problem developers are trying to avoid. So again, here's all those same developer solutions. We saw that for gamers in the past. Here's what they provide for developers: anti-fraud, event ops, marketing as a service, all the things that come with content discovery and monetization, right? And then back-end statistics. Hey, here's how many people are playing your game. Here's how they're playing it. Here's the type of competitive modes they're engaging with it with. So you can kind of backtrack and say, what should I be putting in this game next to maximize the enjoyment of the people actually playing it and how they're actually playing it? They have live ops and multivariate testing and all these great things that help developers optimize what they should be doing with their game in the future. They have brand-sponsored tournaments and all these ways to engage people all over that life cycle, from the first time they play that game to being a veteran of that game and a constant tournament player and all that. And yeah, lots of great comments in the chat. Let me just start calling some of them out. I apologize. I'm kind of going through this because there's a lot to say, and I value your time, and we're already almost at the 30-minute mark. I can see this taking off when VR becomes more mainstream. Exactly. Like, don't just apply this to 2D space, video games on a screen. Apply this to 3D space. Combine this with the fact that what ARK Invest's big idea is actually about is virtual worlds, right? So video games are becoming the third place away from home and work, is what ARK Invest is saying about video games as a whole, but this is part of a talk about augmented and virtual reality, and that's what's primed to scale here, right? Which is why I like this comment that I'm leaving on screen so much, because that's right, Skillz and VR and AR can coexist. That's kind of what I'm saying here, right? So when you combine these two things and monetize AR and VR gaming, now you have AR and VR in-game tournaments that are kind of like Ready Player One. That's a cool idea. This is a great comment. Great. Let's get back to the investor relations deck. So, platform is underpinned by data science. I love to see this. As a data scientist myself, this is super important to me. They're using that cross-platform, cross-game, cross-customer-based data to make a better experience for everyone and learn lessons that you can only learn by compiling that type of data. Better matchmaking, better anti-cheat and anti-fraud, better algorithmic skill versus chance testing, which means matching player by skill instead of randomly, right? And then segmentation, offering the right experiences to the right people across all those different demographics that we saw earlier, right? We're almost at the bottom. We're almost through. I appreciate you bearing with me as I go on this exciting rant. Developers can make a living doing what they love. This is the important part. They don't have to focus on economics. They can focus on making a great game and let Skillz be the platform that helps augment their economics, right? Healthy and growing developer ecosystem. Top 5 games are changing constantly. The number of games that are annualized with over a $1 million gross merchandise value is growing. So in 2016, they only had 7 games supported on the platform making this much money. And then in 2020, they had 34, right? So that's more than a quadrupling. It's almost a quintupling. And I'm sure that number is even higher today. And the thing is, the more games they support, the more games want on, the more games want on, the more games they can support. And it's a virtuous cycle for Skillz, right? And then we can get into their economics. We're going to see exponential curves because that's what ARK Invest invests in. And of course, 2016, they started with not that much. And by 2022, what you're looking at here is total capital. The gross merchandise value, right? So $3.8 billion in transactions centered around betting on gaming. And then that's $555 million in revenue today, right? And this number is only going to keep scaling as they scale horizontally, more games, and vertically, more engagement per game, right? Like more ways to extract that experience in each game that they support. Robust opportunities to invest in growth. So this is how that total addressable market is growing, right? So new ways to monetization, grow the average revenue per user, go global, so address different markets, expand their content. We just talked about that, offer more games, and then unique distribution, how they're getting those games in front of each customer, right? So all those different areas add up, and that's how they're growing. Transaction summaries, like there's all these, the specifics of the finances, I want to address the vision here, right? And so when you're comparing companies like Skillz, you should be looking at many of ARK's other holdings: Skillz, DraftKings, Shopify, Mercado Libre, Snapchat, Roku, Pinterest, Square, Wix, Tencent, Etsy, and PayPal. ARK Invest holds almost all of these companies. So just addressing that, Skillz does make sense for ARK Invest to hold. They're in that space that is a growing market in the future, and they have outsized gains in that market today, just like Roku does versus Fire Stick and Apple TV and all those other ones. So I'll stop there for this, and then the one last thing I want to highlight is actually how much better is Skillz than its competitor. And I thought this was a really interesting article from Investor Place, right? Skillz has superior monetization of users compared to its peers. This is the argument for investing in Roku as well. The company has an average revenue per monthly active user of $6.30 compared to Zynga's $1.51, and Glue Mobile's $1.89. So just like we saw with Roku, where their advertising revenue, of the total OTT space, is about 60%, realize that Skillz is doing the same thing in competitive gaming as a platform. It has an outsized average revenue per monthly active user, about 4-to-1 or 3-to-1 to its neighboring competitors, depending on if you're talking about Zynga or Glue Mobile in that sentence. That's the special thing. So again, it's about identifying outsized winners in a growing market. The combination of those two things. The electric vehicle space is growing. Tesla is the outsized winner. The mobile gaming space is growing. It appears that Skillz is the outsized winner. That's the double whammy that forms that exponential growth curve that results in a doubling roughly every 5 years, right? People saying they believe in the long-term runway of this company, that's great. Let's separate ourselves as gamers or non-gamers, from the fact that this is a publicly traded company with a clear roadmap to growth, right? Even if you don't use the product, which is totally fair, right? I don't own a Tesla. I'm still a Tesla investor, right? And one day I hope to own a Tesla. But Skillz is something you can go interact with now. You can download a Skillz-backed game on your cell phone and try it and decide for yourself, hey, I like this. Hey, I don't like this. One of the things I always encourage you to do as an investor, let me throw this banner up, is go do the boots on the ground research yourself, right? Skillz is something you can go and try. Apple products are something you can go and try. Microsoft products, whatever. If you can go try the product, you're going to know way more about the company for going and touching the thing that they sell. That is an investment conversation, right? Talk to your friends who use these products. Have an investment conversation. It doesn't need to be wrapped up as an investment conversation. Hey, do you like your Tesla? Let's talk about it. And in the back of your mind, just realize you're having two conversations, right? One about the Tesla and one about an investor interested in Tesla as a company, right? Hey, I really like this thing that Tesla does. Oh, I didn't know Tesla does that, right? Engaging in those conversations gives you additional information. Information and knowledge is worth something to the market. You now know something you didn't know before and that not every market participant knows, right? That's that inefficiency in the market that we're trying to leverage to our advantage. Excellent. So I see lots and lots of stuff going on in the chat. Let me stay around for a couple questions, and then I will let you go for Market Open. We're all in the same boat, more or less. I'm almost entirely in growth and getting crushed. It will get better. Data shows experienced investors are holding right now. Yeah, this is a rotation out of growth out of growth into value, right? All that means is that these stocks are being sold at a discount. If you still believe it's a growth stock, it's obviously going to grow tomorrow than it did today because it's cheaper today than it was yesterday, right? So just remember, let's bring things back to ARK Invest for a second. They have a 15% per year minimum hurdle growth rate of return, right? What that means is to get that cumulative doubling every 5 years, every stock they hold should roughly increase by 15% year over year. If a stock they're holding and they have enough conviction to buy dips 50%, then it's much more likely it's going to double in the next 5 years because the number is now much lower. As the value goes down of stocks they've already purchased, they're buying the dip because now it might not double, it might triple, right? Going from 15 to 30 is a doubling. Going from 10 to 30 is a tripling. Does that make sense? So this isn't one of those things where it's like, oh no, they were wrong. It's like, hey, the runway for growth just increased because it's selling at a discount. Always going to call these out. Thank you so much for buying my coffee today. I really appreciate it. I love coffee. Coffee is the fuel to my research, and you, sir, just bought it from me today. Thank you, Kunho. I hope I said your name right, for giving me coffee today. So still bleeding out all my profits from 2020. Yep. And so I always advise, let's turn back to the ARC reactor. And this is going to be the last thing I say to you. And I appreciate you sticking around for an extended episode. And I appreciate my camera for sticking through it too. If you were watching daily, I have had a couple camera failures in recent episodes. So seems today is not the day. I'm knocking on wood. Let's look at the ARK reactor one more time, and I want to turn your attention to this little grid that you can hardly read. I will figure out how to make that more readable in the future. What this grid is the Kathy indicator. It's a measure, it tries to be a measure of the amount of cash that she is holding in any fund at any one time because she holds cash-like positions. And what you can see here is cash has been relatively stable in all of these funds, except for ARKW. ARKW, the amount of stocks has gone down and then up and then down, but what that means is she's spending money. What that means is she's trading positions like Apple and Amazon for companies that are dipping extraordinarily compared to their peers and buying that dip. To do that, she must have cash on the side. So the last thing I want to say to you as a growth investor, as someone investing in disruptive innovation, is you must have cash on the side. You must manage your risk and you must keep some powder dry because the stocks you're investing in have high beta. They're highly volatile, which means they can go up a lot and it means they can go down a lot. And realize that both of those things are opportunities. When they go down, it's an opportunity to buy. When they go up, it's an opportunity to sell. And all that means is the triangle you're trying to form is buy low, which means you need cash, sell high to get that cash, and keep repeating that cycle more often so you're netting cash. The end result is always to be in a better position tomorrow than you were today. And to do that, you must manage your cash position, which is why we always take the time to at least visually look at the amount of cash Kathy is or is not spending. Cash is a big piece of the puzzle. So I appreciate you going on this little journey with me about gaming, mobile gaming, competitive gaming. I'd love to hear more about how you interact with games. And then I do want to actually say one more thing. Let me know if you're interested in Q&A sessions. So one thing that I get a lot is, we're at 36 minutes now, and I spent the last half of this addressing questions and talking about the market and stocks, and I love doing this, but I'm interested to know if it would make more sense to move that to a separate weekly Q&A so that we can just focus on the tight ARK trades, right? Literally just talk about the data and then the stock, and then we're done, and then move all the questions to one weekly Q&A session. Is that better? Is that worse? This would streamline the daily live streams, and it would, now you're only hanging out for 20 minutes a day, and you can just catch the Q&A when you want. And we would do that in a live stream format, and maybe these would become pre-recorded videos where I look at the questions in the comments and then I address them in that Q&A. So I'm happy to adapt the format to whatever's working. Figured I'd start with live streams just because that's what makes sense, but I'd love to hear your comments below on whether you think we should do weekly Q&A sessions where we wrap up all the questions instead of adding questions at the end of every live stream like this one. So I'll leave it with that. Check the comments just in case everyone's saying that. Yeah, a couple people saying yes already. Excellent. So I will consider doing that. I think it's good to have questions as they go and come up and weekly. So I might do something like that too. Address the, high impact questions for the episode right then. And then as questions get collected, I'll address them in a Q&A. So just let me know. Keep in mind the format for this podcast can change slightly over time. As we decide new things make more sense for everyone. For example, moving it earlier, half an hour happened, right? Thank you for sticking with me. It was almost a double episode today. I appreciate your time. I hope you have a great market day. This is Ticker Symbol Live. My name is Alex, reminding you that the best investment you can make is in you. Thanks for watching.